Thank you very much, Mr. Klinsmann, again to be with us today. On this day, 30 years ago, Germany won its third title of World Cup champion. And we are very grateful to be with you to share some of your memories of that tournament. Thank you very much, Mr. Klinsmann.
Yeah, you're very welcome.
Yes. First question, Mr. Klinsmann, what does this World Cup represent for you? What does it mean for you, this competition, as a person or as a former player also?
Well, I think, for every football player, playing in a World Cup is the biggest thing that can happen to you. And then obviously, if you have the luck to win a World Cup, then this will remind it will stay with you for the rest of your life. And in the moment you actually are lucky enough to win it, you don't realize what actually happened. You just think, it's party time and you want to celebrate. But later on, after your career is over and you travel the world and you go to different continents around the world, and you meet people that, just kind of talk to you and remind you of that World Cup success, then you realize that it was actually a really big thing that happened. And it's just a pleasure when you get remembered or kind of reminded of what you achieved then in that moment with your team, with your country, and you share that moment with so many people out there that or they watched it on TV or they maybe were lucky enough to be at the stadium. But it will always stay with you no matter what.
Yes, and 30 years later, we still talk about it. Yeah. Yes. In the 80s, Germany lost 2 finals of World Cup in 82 and 86. Was there a feeling of revenge when you approach the tournament of 1990 inside the team?
No, for us, for sure not, because Franz Beckenbauer, then he kind of reshaped the entire team towards the 1990 World Cup. So it became a new team in a certain way. I think, every World Cup writes its own history. It has its own character. Obviously, it helped us a lot because Franz Beckenbauer experienced the 1986 World Cup already as a coach. And I'm sure that he learned so many things from 86 that he did differently probably in the 1990 World Cup. But for us as a team, it was very special because it was the first World Cup we represented as a reunited Germany, because obviously the wall came down in 89. Exactly. And we had the reunification. And so we felt like this is the World Cup for the entire Germany now, not only West Germany, even if it was called the team West Germany, because the East German players were not allowed yet in the team in the 90 World Cup. But we felt like it was for the entire Germany being back together. And it was a very special feeling for us to have that opportunity to represent the entire Germany.
Yes. The first game you won against Yugoslavia, it was a big win, 4-1, I think. Does this big win comfort you that you were going to be champions, or maybe there was a turning point later in this tournament?
No, I think for us as a team, we felt very confident going into the tournament. We felt very strong. But I think this opening game for us against Yugoslavia was a little bit of a exclamation mark for the other teams as well, because we sent a message, exactly, Naim, exactly. And the strongest message in this game was obviously Lothar Matthäus's goal when he ran through, 60, 70 yards, and then he shot a very beautiful goal. And that kind of send that message to all the other teams. Hey, we are ready for it. We want to compete here. And that carried us throughout the tournament. This type of confidence, this type of being convinced that we can do something special, and also was certainly an advantage that we were allowed to play at Siro Stadium, where it was a home for 3 Inter Milan players. Lothar Matthäus, Andreas Brehme, and myself, with a lot of German supporters in the stands. But this game against Yugoslavia was the starting point of a lot of confidence.
Yes. After you beat Colombia and beat Emirates, and tell us a little about the game against Netherlands in the last 16 round. We know that there is a big rivalry between the two countries, between Dutchland and Netherlands. Do you agree if I say to you that it was the most electric game, the most tense game that you played with your national Mannschaft during your career?
It certainly was a very particular, very special game. I mean, the rivalry with Holland goes way back, and I think it started probably with the '74 World Cup final, where Holland felt they were the better team, but they lost it 2-1 against obviously a big football generation with Germany, with Beckenbauer, Vogts, Breitner, Gerd Müller, Overath, and all these amazing players we had in the '70s. But they felt like, they were actually the better team with Johan Cruyff and very special players, Arie Haan, Neeskens, and a very special Dutch team. But then there was, in the 1990 game against Holland, there was a little bit of a history because the '88 semi-final in the European Championship, we lost against the fantastic Dutch team. We're talking here about, Ronald Koeman, we're talking about Ruud Gullit, Van Basten, Rijkaard, fantastic team.
Coached by Rinus
Yeah. So it was, the problem was that Holland unfortunately didn't win their group. So they ended up in this round of 16 with us already far too early. And we knew it's a type of an early final. It could have been the World Cup final. But so was also then the semi-final when we meet England was a similar situation where you felt this could be also the final. But obviously we had the luck on our side in a certain way. Holland could have scored right in the beginning of the game, 2-3 chances, big chances. And then it happened with the red card shown to Rijkaard and my teammate Rudi Völler, which changed the dynamic of the game. Two less players on the field. I played up front by myself, and probably many say in Germany it was probably my best game for the German national team, because I had so much space to run, and I love to run in my days. So I enjoyed that very, very much. And so we were on the better side of things at the end of the game, won it 2-1, and moved on to the quarterfinals. But it was, for such a caliber of a game, it was far too early in the tournament.
Yes. In the quarterfinal, you beat Republic Czech. The first 5 games of the tournament was all played at Milan, at San Siro. Does this fact to not traveling too much, do you think that it was an important factor of the triumph of Germany during this World Cup, to play all the games, first games at Milan? Especially because you played at Inter.
I think so, definitely. It definitely was an advantage for us. We had, it's an 85,000 seat stadium. We probably had 60 to 70,000 German fans in there almost every game except against Holland, where it was half-half. But it helped us to get through the first 5 games much easier. I mean, there's definitely was an advantage. But obviously we enjoyed it, and then, the distance from Germany to Italy is a very short drive, which I took many times through Switzerland. You're in a couple of hours, you're down there in Milano. And so for a lot of the fans coming from Germany, they kind of combined it with their vacation, basically in northern Italy. And so we were overwhelmed by the support. We felt like we play almost at home, kind of the same feeling maybe that Italy had at the same time. So yeah, I mean, it was definitely an advantage.
Yes. And in the semi-final, you beat England, and in the final, you beat Argentina. Tell us a little about the role of the coach, Franz Beckenbauer. because many people know the great player that was Franz Beckenbauer, but not many people know a lot about the Franz Beckenbauer, the coach. And can you tell us a little about him as a coach?
Yeah, Franz Beckenbauer was obviously, or is still, the biggest German football legend, that we ever had, in German history. But I would say he shares that compliment worldwide with only Pelé. There's Pelé and Beckenbauer. Those were until today, still the two most amazing soccer players in history. Even if we talk about Ronaldo and Messi, we talk about Maradona, Johan Cruyff, definitely. But I think as a personality, as an ambassador, as a really leader of the game and the influence on the game, charisma, Franz Beckenbauer and Pelé share this very special kind of spot in our football world. So he was not only able to win it as a player, he guided us to win it as a coach. Later on, he guided Germany to get the World Cup 2006 and be our global ambassador until today. Is just this amazing personality. He had the advantage, as I mentioned before, that he was in Mexico 1986 with the team. Unfortunately for Germany, then we lost that final against Argentina, against an amazing Maradona, the Argentina of Maradona at his peak. But he probably learned so much from this competition that he could kind of go back to his notes that he made in '86. He could back to those notes and said, okay, I'm going to do this, a little bit different than I did maybe 4 years before. He was is an amazing coach also in the detail. He looked always at the little things in a game. He looked always at the little pieces, also about the opponents. He was amazingly prepared for the opponents, the information he gave us about the other team, about the individual players, about the tactical approach. He was very well thought through, and he had two assistant coaches with Holger Ossig and Berti Vogt that were detail driven as well. So we knew, no matter who we play, we're going to be well prepared. We don't have to watch too much video on the opponents. We don't need to know too much, ahead of time, because they will fill us in the 2-3 days before the game. I think his experience from '86 benefited him for the 1990 World Cup. But still until today, what he did was absolutely amazing and admirable. And his personality took so much pressure away from the team, because everybody looked at Franz Beckenbauer all the time, so the media coverage was so much about him as well, that we were kind of in the background almost as a team, completely relaxed. We always said, okay, if there are too many cameras out there or too many journalists, it's all about Franz anyway. It's all about the Kaiser, that we call him. And so that took so much away from us. It was just a wonderful experience having him as a head coach.
Yes. So you won that World Cup. And after your career of player, you became a coach. And your first tournament as a coach was the World Cup 2006 with National Mannschaft. Did you try reproduce some recipes of that tournament of 1990? Maybe, for example, training habits, playing tactics, or maybe the way to manage the group of 22 players during 2 months? Maybe some kind of details that you consider it maybe timeless, and that you also use in your time as a coach?
Yeah, definitely, Naim. Definitely, I learned so much from Franz Beckenbauer and afterwards from Berti Vogt as a head coach of the German team. So throughout every tournament, you observe your coach, you observe the coaching staff, you observe the different departments that work with a team. If it's the medical department, the media department, if it's a marketing related issue. So you see all those things, and you observe the coaches, how they deal with that, how they guide such a big project and throughout a tournament, you know. And I was lucky enough, I played 6 tournaments, 3 World Cups, 3 European Championships, that later on, when I was then able to coach, all these experiences that they came back in my mind, and so I definitely benefited a lot from those experiences. I also, throughout my coaching career, I also asked always more experienced coaches in certain areas about their opinions. You know, when I coach, for example, the United States, I always had Berti Vogt on my side. Yeah. You know, and even in 2006 as a German coach, I always talked to my former coaches. I even had at one point Cesar Luis Menotti visit me in Munich during the 2006 World Cup, and we had a 2-hour discussion about tactics, and he drafted everything on a piece of paper for me down, you know, because he became almost a Germany fan in that tournament, because we played very attractive and attacking football. So no, you are always a student of the game, and you always trying to learn. As today, you know, you watch all the Champions League games. You always look what a Guardiola, what a Ancelotti, what a Mourinho, what are these coaches? Yeah, what are they doing differently? What are they changing? You know, what are their problems? You know, so you constantly learn throughout life, and so I learned a lot from my former coaches. You know, I had fantastic coaches throughout my career. If it was a Trapattoni, Ossi Ardiles, Menotti, I said, Berti Vogt, Beckenbauer, Ari Hahn, the big Dutch player when I was in Stuttgart. Arsene Wenger, I was very fortunate to work with him 2 years at Monaco, and then and Otto Röhagel in German Bundesliga. So I was very, very fortunate. But when I then had the chance to coach Germany in 2006, all these experiences kind of melted together, and I tried it the best way I could do it. We didn't win the World Cup then, but we won at least, you know, the third place match, and we won over a lot of fans in our home country.
You were very close, but yeah. That was all, Mr. Klinsmann. Thank you very much to share with us your memories. Just last question: do you still keep good memories from France?
Yes, Naim, I always keep good memories of France. Absolutely. I had 2 fantastic years with Monaco in the early 90s, you know, also playing in the Champions League. And I always visit France as often as I can.
Yeah. Okay, perfect. Thank you very much again, Mr. Klinsmann.
You're very welcome. Talk soon, Naim, okay?
Yes.
Bye. Bye-bye.
Stop the record.
Yeah.